Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour, the Charity Cup, the last day of the preliminaries. So we start this event with 16 players, 15 rounds, and the top 8 move on to a knockout, higher prize funds, more drama, more excitement. This last day had 3 rounds of action, rounds 13, 14, and 15. It had Magnus Carlsen raging on camera. I mean, who doesn't love it? It had heartbreak drama. It had like 12 people competing for 8 spots and everything in between. I hope you enjoy the video. And if I'm at any point, I sound weird or I act weird, my seasonal allergies are the worst they've been in my 26 years of life on this earth. I honestly feel like my head is a giant balloon that's about to explode. And as entertaining as that would be for you, it would be unfortunate for me because I would be dead. So, yeah. Jumping into the games today, we obviously begin with Liam versus Magnus Carlsen. This is a matchup of number 1 and number 2. These guys are not battling for any sort of spot, but they are battling, for qualification, but they are battling, for pride. And Magnus goes for a King's Indian defense, indicating that he is playing for a win. I mean, this is what you play nowadays and in the old days if you'd like to win, but it's not seen in classical chess much anymore because White has a lot of ways to play for advantage. Liam chooses h3, which is a massive sideline to the main line, which is just bishop e2. And the point is that you still go like this, but this is the point. You play h3, so you play g4. The reason you play like this is you control the movement of these two pieces. So Black wanted to move the knight to the side of the board and then play the move f5. And now he can't do that. And the other idea is that when he goes this way and tries to go this way, Liam is going to play h4 and h5, and Liam does exactly that. Now, you'll notice that Magnus is basically saying, I think your attack is absolute hogwash. In fact, I think you're a complete embarrassment of a chess player and a human being. I don't think he said that out loud. I mean, I don't know if he has those thoughts or not, but, he's like, this attack doesn't work whatsoever. I'm going to attack you on the queen side. And that's generally how King's Indian works. And look, Magnus just confidently playing on the queen side as if nothing is happening near his king whatsoever. Literally, this is fine dog meme. He takes on d5, knight c7. I think knight takes d5 is a novelty. I think they had been following a few games. I believe c takes d5 had been played before. But Magnus brings his knight here. And now, within just a few moves, you kind of realize that White got nowhere. Like, if you go back 7-8 moves, the White attack was like this. And now you fast forward 7-8 moves, and the White attack is still like this, and Black has dominated center square, queen side square, another square near White's king, and then, Liam continues to push forward, but it's actually really Magnus who begins making all the progress in the position. His rook, his knights control the middle of the board very well. All his pieces are looking quite logical. We have queen g4, Liam still attacking, takes, and the knight goes back to c5. So, an important trade here. Black gives up the light squared bishop, locks the center, the knight's looking very nice. But Liam is not done. Liam wants to walk his king over here and maybe bring his rook as well. I mean, this is the entire game plan White has. If White doesn't win on the king side, he will lose. So we have a queen trade. But now we actually the game begins transforming a little bit. There's no queens on the board, right? So now everything that I just said is paused because even though White is still playing on the king side, there's no queens. You're not going to deliver mate. You're not going to mate Magnus Carlsen. All right, so, I mean, you can, but you won't because there's no, queens. And 32 moves into this game, how many times have you all had deja vu with these knights? I mean, right? The knights are just so powerful. So we start transforming the position into an endgame. Magnus actually sacrifices a pawn. Now, you might say, wait a minute, why not bishop takes d4? He doesn't play bishop takes d4 because I'm assuming he didn't like knight e4, right? So instead, Liam sacrifices a rook for a bishop. But now if Magnus takes on e4, then Liam plays rook h1 and Magnus actually does get mated or have to lose all his pieces. So knight d3. But the position's very complicated. In fact, here Liam is winning. In this position, apparently, Liam can play because the point of knight d3 is you want to play knight c1 or knight e5. Knight c1 is a really dumb-looking move. But it serves the purpose of rerouting the knight once again, if necessary, to b3. But knight e5 prevents anything this way, but bishop f6 is incredible. And let's see, like, you want to go rook h1, rook h8, knight c1 here is played to block, but then e5. And White is actually winning. Liam plays bishop e2, and now you have knight c1. So this move actually appears, and Magnus just plays on the queen side. Magnus continues with the rooks. I mean, his 2 rooks are there. You should be playing on that side of the board, right? Liam still launches the counterattack in the middle of the board. We have some trade here. And what ends up happening is we get into an endgame where as the pawns start falling, and both sides lose their pawns, a couple moves later, the queenside pawns both fall, we have 2 rooks, 2 pawns for Magnus versus rook, bishop, and 3 for Liam. It's basically bishop and pawn versus rook. If you give Magnus Carlsen this position, he's gonna beat you, right? So like, what can you expect, right? You don't expect anybody to save this against Magnus. How is he gonna do it? Slowly, all right? Slowly, all right? You know, Magnus doesn't want to finish too fast here in the endgame, so he, you know, takes his time, bleeds the opponent's clock a little bit, right? He's targeting f2, he's targeting d5, but everything is protected in Liam's position. He's doing a good job protecting everything. Also, his pieces are all kind of close enough, but Magnus tortures the guy. I mean, right? This is what you do. Like, he's got his rooks on the most active positions. He starts bringing his king now back to the middle. And finally, he made his progress here with getting Liam to play this move f4. Right, so Magnus forced f4. Why can't Liam just defend with the pawn? Because there would be this, and the king would come even closer. And if I can trade rooks at the right moment, my king will take the pawns. And just because you have a passed pawn that you can't push doesn't mean anything. So he forces Liam to finally, on move 72, play f4. And now he has a new target, right? He has the f4 pawn. So bishop f3, his king, look at this. King is coming around. King is coming around, slowly suffocating. Liam gasping for air. It's like being under Khabib, you know, in MMA, or being deep underwater. You just slowly, you start losing your breath. Liam, on his last legs, gives away the f4 pawn, tries to get a little active. Magnus forcing a rook trade. Oh my goodness, that's it. The game is over. I mean, Magnus just magician. Absolute magician here. Brings his king back. Liam, one final attempt at complicating the matters, attacks this pawn. Magnus here has to play king e4. The point of king e4 is that you allow this and defending this pawn, and then you win the game in a very flashy manner. Check here, or king f1 is even better example. And now you let white queen. f4, king e3. This is beautiful. Look at this. You let white queen, and you create a barrier, and you deliver a mate. Absolutely savage way to end this game. But it didn't happen. Magnus did not find king e4, right? Low time situation, Magnus 20 seconds on the clock. King e4 is apparently not the only winning move. You can also give a check and then bring the king back, but you have to bring the king back. You cannot take this pawn. And that is exactly what Magnus did. And Liam takes on f7, and all of a sudden, after king f3, the king is shouldered, and there's nothing black can do. The pawn is going, or the king is going to take the pawn, and the players made a draw. I mean, they made a draw in a few moves, right? Like the bishop, yeah, and then the reason they made a draw here is rook versus bishop is a draw. That might sound crazy to you, but rook cannot beat a bishop. Magnus could play for 50 more moves, but it's just a draw. You can never get too close. You are more than capable of losing the game with the bishop. You cannot lose the game with the rook. It's a draw. But they are not. And actually, this was Magnus's reaction. He was seen on camera here. I love reactions like this. You know, it shows that the players have emotion. It's muted, so I'm going to voice it over. This was Magnus when he realized it's a draw. He's like, damn it! I should have subbed to GothamChess on YouTube. I can't believe I'm so... 80 moves, damn it. Oh, my goodness. All right, one more time, just in case you're going to... I should have subbed to Gotham on YouTube. I can't believe I didn't do it. All right, there we go. Yeah, that was very fun. I love seeing the players' emotions. By the way, just instant replay. Look at Liam. I mean, Liam just really disgusting behavior on camera here. Just flaunting that he made this draw. I'm joking. Liam is like, he's not moving. I also like the backgrounds. Magnus playing with the blurred background. You don't want to see what's behind him. Liam, just beautiful background, you know, trophies and everything. Anyway, we were not here to analyze the players' backgrounds, but Liam saves the day in the 80th move with no time on the clock versus Magnus, and he maintains top position. Now, the rest of these games were nuts. Are you ready? I hope you're ready. So, we have a c3 Sicilian from Gawain Jones, and again, UK flag because the England flag is glitched, and David Navarra from the Czech Republic trying to qualify a main line, and a very interesting variation, knight a3. Knight a3 is played because you can't put the knight on c3 because you put a pawn there. And you can't eat your own pawns. Welcome to Gotham Chess Recaps. Do you remember when I was saying that, like in every video? I'm bringing it back. Obviously, other idea is like this. So knight c6. At some point, the knight goes to b5, right? You can't take the bishop because knight c7. This might look strange to you, but this has all been played many times. Takes, bishop d2. So white has the better structure, 3-3. Black, though, despite having the bad pawns, does have active lines, so he can play moves like rook b8. Now, and white slowly but surely begins expanding. Now here, Gawain Jones is ever the attacking player. Long castles, and gives up his pawn on f2. At this point, I don't know if we're in theory anymore. Looks like it might be some sort of preparation, but this is very brave because for black, 5 of your 7 non-pawn pieces are still not developed, and white is slowly going to get active. So he drives his knight to the middle. Bishop is very useful to protect the pawn, but very passive. We kick the queen out, and now we play bishop e2, and I'm about to put my rooks here, and I'm going to play g4, g5, and you're about to get yourself into some serious trouble. I kick the queen out, I move the queen out of the way, knight comes into e4, my knight goes out to e5. I think bishop f4 here was Stockfish's preference to attack this rook, at which point Stockfish just wants to sack the rook. And then it also wants to not take the rook. I don't understand. I don't get it. I think the reason it doesn't want to take here is because some rook b8, and it thinks that this is, I don't know. I don't get paid enough to translate Stockfish nonsense. Knight e5, knight takes d2, rook d2, queen g2, and Gawain Jones is completely winning. He's completely winning because he bulldozes the f7 square. His entire attack comes true. And again, I mentioned this earlier. Black negated his own development, and now he will never get the right to castle, right? His rook, the rook on f7 controls everything. So Gawain Jones is about to remove David Navarro's chances from qualifying to the final 8. So David's like, damn it, I really can't move any pieces. How the hell am I going to win this game not being able to move anything? All right, I'm going to play bishop g5. Now, at this point, what you do here with white in this completely winning position is you play the move queen d3. And you threaten mate. And if your opponent plays rook d8, you bring the rook. And I think what Gawain Jones might have I don't know. Actually, I don't know what he overlooked. He might have overlooked how powerful this idea was. Black can castle now, but it's mate. You just sack the queen. It's pretty gangster. Look at this. The knight covers this. And what is this guy doing? Glorified tall pawn with a pointy hat, doing absolutely nothing. So I don't exactly know what he missed. I mean, queen d3 threatens mate. It just does. Queen d3 wins on the spot, but Gawain plays king c2. He obviously didn't like this pin. He was ready to sacrifice and maybe then go here, or bishop f3 to try to go bishop takes c6, takes, and then queen b8. I don't know. But all of a sudden, Navarra comes in with queen e4 check, and defends his own queen. I just made fun of this bishop, and now it plays an integral role in defending the position. And all of a sudden, being met with this resistance, Gawain tried to fire off a tactical shot. Rook takes h7. Look at that. I mean, he just continues to look for tactics, right? Bishop g6 is coming. If you take bishop g6, I pick up your queen. Beautiful move, rook takes h7. Except the move rook takes h7 loses on the spot. You can try to pause here and find the move if you'd like. I'll take a sip of my orange juice. The move here for black is castles. Yes, that's legal. Incredible. Have you ever seen something like this? Castles. The move we were trying to prevent now works, and the rook is arriving. The king hits this hits this, and this hits this, and this hits this. 4 hanging pieces, potentially. 3. The queen's a trade. I take the knight. And that's it. This is under attack. There's nothing you can do. White is just down material. And in swoops this. And this is another haymaker. Rook, in the middle of all this, is that the 2 pieces hit b2 together. The king thought he was safe. He gets mated. What? What? How did we just go from +5 for white to checkmate for black? Insane! Navarra, absolute savage, finding short castles here with the rooks cascading, the bishop defending the queen and mate. Incredible stuff, and he keeps his chances of qualifying alive. Next game I have for you, David Anton. Right? A lot of people in the chat were like, stop calling him David, it's David. Okay, I'm sorry. Relax, you know? Relax. Here, we get a Peer's defense. So this is always interesting versus Report. And David Anton plays f3. This is, I faced this before. It's a very annoying system. Black just has to deal with the fact that white is very solid in the middle. Maybe white will play c4, and in fact, a few moves later he does. And we have Not a King's Indian defense. In a King's Indian, there's a bishop on g7. Here, there's this. I don't even know what this is. This is almost like a lion's, black lion, something, I don't know. It's very weird. Very weird system. I like White's position. He has more space, but Black is about to play a pawn break here, very similar in the King's Indian positions, and that's f5. So this is a crazy game, and friendly reminder, both these guys are on the verge of qualifying. This is a matchup of basically 8th and 9th place, all right? So we have a trade and another trade. We have a big trade. So we have both Black knights disappearing, and David Anton really likes this because he gets nice light squares. Bishop coming to d3, maybe long-term attacking possibilities. And then he moves his king. He doesn't even play g3. I don't know why he didn't play g3 here. I honestly cannot begin to explain to you why he did not just do this. He plays king d1. I don't know. Beyond me. Bishop d3. And now he picks up the pawn on c5. The problem with this is it allows laser beaming bishops, right? I mean, now Black is really powerful here with the bishops. He trades one of them, but we just saw this bishop. Do you not have deja vu? All right? PTSD from this bishop on g5? I mean, honestly, like really. Back-to-back games with this bishop and this queen together. The knight can go to d7 and fork, but then this, and again, it's the same thing that happened in the last game. So knight goes back, and here, Report finds a beauty. Danger levels, Report is subscribed to GothamChess, unlike Magnus, e4. Dynamite in the middle of the board, 2 queens hanging, and if you take this, that's what I wanted anyway. I open up my line for my rook. My queen comes back, and now I'm ready to get this, get in here with my rook. My bishop is an absolute savage. Very nice position, and here Report blows it up again. b5. Oh my god, he's sacking everything. He's down 2 pawns. He's unsatisfied. He wants to be down 3 pawns to get queen e4, rook f2. I mean, he's just completely winning if this happens. So knight c3, b6, but David Anton is not going to give in to the pressure. He doesn't take on b4. David Anton is also a sub to GothamChess. It's crazy. It's a matchup of subs. And here he plays danger levels himself. d6. But Report is like, I invented danger levels. Rook f2. The queen is hanging. The king is hanging. The knight is hanging. Queen d5 is potentially going to win a rook. What's going on? David hides his king. Report has to stop queen d5 check, so he does. But now I take on b4, and Report's antics have gotten him in trouble. He's 3 pawns down, and somehow this beta king ran and got hidden, all right, by his friends. And that's it. You can play rook d2, but White has too many pawns. Queen on b3, rook a2, just by the skin of his knee. Everything is defended. And now David Anton's like, all right, I'm mad. Queen c6. You thought you could play this game of losing all your pawns. You have no idea which. You are down 4 pawns. Report 4. I got 6. You got 2. What are you going to do about that? Report's like, well, I can't trade queens. b5, but now rook takes g2. I mean, b6. You could take 2 of the pawns back. Queen b5. I'm threatening a queen trade. Yes, that is a threat. I am threatening a queen trade because with no queens, you can't mate me. We have a trade. Now, Report's only down 1 pawn. But the quality of the pawn is everything. We have rook a5. The king is going to hide on the A file. Bishop d8, queen b3 check. And now Report's down no pawns. What? He's down no pawns. How did this happen? But the quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. b7, b8, and White is just going to win the game. Queen c2, queen d1, queen f5, knight d1, and Report resigns because we're queening. That's it. We're just making a queen, and that's huge. Absolutely massive win. For David Anton, he locks in maybe an 8th place spot, maybe a 7th place spot. He makes it a lot harder for Report to qualify. Also from this round, we had, this is round 14 of 15. This is the penultimate round. Prague is also on the verge of qualifying. He's around that 8th spot, and Jordan Van Forest has had a great, he's like in 3rd place. And Prague has to beat him in order to get in as well. So he's pushing behind David Anton. Going into the final round, which we will analyze after this game, there was like 6 people for 2 or 3 spots. And it was crazy. Everybody separated by 1 point. Soccer scoring, football scoring, so a win is 3 points, right? So this one, a Grunfeld, a weird Grunfeld with e3. This is definitely a sideline. This is not anything of a mainline type. We get a strange position. where black still plays in Grunfeld style, sacrificing this pawn, looking to kind of, win it back if white decides to take, isolated pawn position, and everything has been seen before. Prog plays a move that he played against MVL in July 2021, which is the move h3, preventing bishop g4. Everything up until this moment, including g4, has been seen in games prior. But here, prior, black has played bishop d7. Jordan plays a new move. I don't know if it's inspiration. I don't know if he found it over the board. Inspiration meaning preparation. He knew it before. He takes the bishop first, and then he goes like this. So Prog has a weird position here. He has open lines, and he pushed the pawns in front of his king. He's got doubled B pawns, and he's got 4 pieces on the back rank. But he has open lines. His rooks are unbelievably powerful. His bishop, very strong. Good control of this bishop. Good control of this knight. None of the black pieces have any forward mobility, which is very important. So he plays bishop g5, yet another powerful move, tying down the black pieces. Goes here and tries to force Jordan to weaken his own position. Because again, look at the quality of this bishop. I mean, look at the quality of both rooks. Look at this thorn in black's position. He's got a great situation here. Jordan here has to fight back, preferably with pawns. He goes for f5, which looks good because you get f4 next. Takes, and now bishop e5. Prog is going to trade off Jordan's only active piece, and the only one that's doing anything. He's basically making the argument that this light-scored bishop's not involved in the game at all. And taking this pawn is extremely risky because, again, none of your pieces are doing much. So just wandering off here and taking a pawn, thinking you're going to get back in time, might not be good enough. And Prog does not look back. Pragnananda here unleashes pure savagery in the form of chess violence, taking on g7, checking. You think the attack is over because I just moved my king. No, if you move the king, there's another check. I can come back like this. Then I can come knight e5. I hit this bishop that you just beautifully gave me on a silver platter. And then check here, queen f7. Platter. I can't even speak English. I'm so excited for this game. Jordan sacrifices the e-pawn. He allows it to be captured, and this allows him to get back to g8. But here, queen e4. If you take on e5, I still have a one-way ticket to g6, so you have to prevent that king g7, and obviously we're not going to get a repetition of moves. So what are we going to get? How can white continue to move forward? It looks like white's been stopped. Because what do you do? Honestly, what do you do? If you move your knight and try to keep going, I go here, here, and then I trade queens. So what do you do? King g7. How do you make any forward progress? I'm going to go knight d7. I'm going to force your rook to move. Prog plays rook takes a... Oh my god, what a move. What a move. Rook a7. If you take on a7, I take this. That's it. You could give me check. I'm going to go here or block. I don't care. The rook, the queen, the knight are going to swarm the king. If you don't take on a7, if you play like rook b8, then I can play anything I want. Queen d4, this is now always a target. This rook hits here. This just doesn't work anymore. Unbelievable move, rook a7. The black position immediately collapses as Prog swarms in on the 8th rank. The knight blocks the check. King g6, he hunts the king out, and another gorgeous finish. Look at this. He's not done. Boom! Rook takes g5. You can't take with the pawn, and if you take with the king, it's a fork. And if you play king h4, I go here. I force you to take my rook. I check you. I win your queen, and Jordan resigns. Oh my god, Pragnananda. Drop the rings off. Drop the gloves off in the ring, baby. I mean, oh my goodness. What a win. Now, could Prog keep it up? Prog needs to win the very next game. This is a massive final round matchup. Again, David Anton, 8th place spot, 7th place spot. Prog in the 9th place spot, 8th place spot. This matchup, they could draw. If they draw, there's a chance they both qualify, but they don't know that. So they're going to play chess as opposed to like any other game. So they're going to play some chess. All right. I hope you're ready. So this one, just a solid queen's pawn kind of sideline. Rubinstein, queen's pawn position. We have a big trade around move 12, 13. You'll notice that Prog actually sacks a pawn here. He plays d4, and not quite sacrifice, but for a very brief moment, he's offering up a pawn sacrifice. But there is bishop takes h2. So it's sacrifice, right? You're giving away the pawn. But this does allow David Anton to expand on the queen side with c5. So he gets a very nice position. I mean, very imbalanced, exactly what you want for a potential must-win game. Black controls the center, white controls the queen side. Incredibly complicated position. Now, one of two things can happen here. White bulldozes you with these pawns, and black regrets completely getting a 3-on-1 on the queen side, because that's a massive imbalance, and it's not good at all. Or black opens the middle, and white gets checkmated. Okay? So let's see what happens. Here goes black trying to implement the game plan of checkmating white. d3, the pawn trudges in. The knight jumps into e2, and David Anton has to sacrifice. But I said a while ago that it's all about opening the side of the board. Well, Prag's not done. f5. Pawns are moving in front of the king. The bishop goes into the queen side. Here, Prag can play e4. This is what he has to do. He has to give back this rook and just bulldoze, right? Bulldoze, bulldoze, bulldoze. Attack, attack, attack. Prag goes here and tries to be a little bit solid, and that's fine. That's not bad, but David Anton still has those pawns. And like I've been saying, if those pawns get through, he's going to be in very good shape. Prag trying to find his way forward. He's got to find a way. So he plays g5. I mean, he's launching the kitchen sink at David Anton. David desperately defending here. This is a very complex and tense position. All right? So complex that someone outside just honked their horn really loud. I mean, they're cheering for this game. We have a trade of rooks. Now, remember, the attacking forces of Prag cannot be liquidated. You cannot just trade off and be like, I have a rook and you don't. Because at the end of the day, this 3-on-1 is worth everything. Prag continues to try to attack, but all of a sudden, David Anton is poking holes in his attack. This f-pawn never got moving. Like, if we go back a few moves, Prag got a beautiful armada of pawns, but he never opened the position. I mentioned this a long time ago. He's got to open the position for his bishops, and he didn't. He got a little all over the place, and now David Anton's like, all right, you're trying to open it up, but I'm doing fine. But Prag's attack still trying to, right? The position's open, but it's a little late. He's down 3 pawns now. He opened up his bishops, but he's down pawns. And David begins simplifying. And I told you a long time ago, folks, if you don't deal with these pawns, you will lose this game. And Prag tries his best to get them off the board, but they're rolling. White survived the middle game. The pawns are rolling. The king is now joining the party. And no draw. No draw. David Anton senses blood. He picks up all the remaining pawns. He is up 4 pawns. And now, amazing, the next pawns start rolling. So fascinating final round battle, as you might imagine. Who is going to win it here? It's the guy making belligerent progress into his opponent's position for the last 40 moves, and in absolutely tragic fashion. One final stalemate trap, though. Don't take the bishop. It's a draw. G5, F6, and it was on move 83 with G6, G7 incoming that Prag resigned and lost his opportunity to qualify for the finals. Crazy, absolutely heartbreaking finish. And Prag won a beautiful game against Jordan and had a good opportunity here in the final round, but unfortunately comes up short. And we will end our day with the battle between Vidit Gujrathi and Magnus Carlsen once again. All right, Vidit has to beat Magnus to ensure a qualification spot. And Vidit came to fight. Magnus plays a Grunfeld, Vidit goes h4. Vidit, you have my blessing. Here we go. Bishop f4, symmetrical structure, and a little bit of queenside dancing here. Obviously, we don't want to draw. We have just calm development by Vidit, right? He's taking his chance and taking his time to build up a chance against Magnus. What do you do? How do you outplay Magnus from a symmetrical position, right? Like, how do you do it? I mean, neither side has a c-pawn. It's an incredibly equal position. Vidit is like, I got to go for it. a4. A, B, A, B, knight A2. I'm going to try to bring my knight to B4, but the position is objectively completely equal, right? But Vidit's like, I got to qualify. I got to make the final 8. I got to get my cash. Magnus trades off a bishop for the knight, trades the bishops, and put his knight on F5. And Vidit's like, all right, slowly but surely, we can trade the rooks. Magnus, go ahead. Trade rooks with me. I have a very active queen. My bishop can come back and target your B-pawn. I'm just simply better here. So Magnus, unsatisfied, decides, let's mix things up. I'm going to shove my d-pawn forward. And Vidit says, are you sure? Because I kick your knight out, and I take, and I go rook a1. Where do your knights move? You can't move them. Where are you moving your horses? My rook is coming down here. This is going to be a big weakness. All right, I'm not scared. All right, I mean, Magnus trying to get weird with it over there on the queen side, but the rook is going to a8. I mean, I promised this, and now the attack continues. I mean, Vidit's got, let's not forget, Vidit like 20 moves ago played the move h4, so he's gonna play the move h5 at some point, and this is crazy. Vidit is doing to Magnus what Magnus does to Vidit and most other people. He is just slowly advancing into his position and creating long-term endgame weaknesses throughout the middle game. He's doing a great job. This is exactly what you have to do. He's got to win this game. So Vidit, look at this. Bringing, the queen is like trying to find its way in. Queen g5 check, king f8, queen f4. He's trying his hardest. It's an equal endgame. It is equal, but he's got to win it. Can he win it? He's given Magnus the b pawn. Look at this. He's given Magnus the b pawn. Magnus takes it. And now Vidit apparently is winning. After bishop b5, Vidit sacrifices 2 pawns against Magnus Carlsen in the 50th move of action. 2 pawns, b3 and e4. And he's winning. He's threatening takes, queen e7, queen f8. Like for example, takes, queen e7, the game's over. You win because of your h-pawn. Because this pawn always prevented the king. Magnus thinks for a while and plays the move f6, and Vidit is winning. E takes f6, he had a couple of other ways forward. Takes, and Magnus bails out into an endgame. Down a piece! Magnus is down a piece. There is a bishop on the board with for one guy. He's down a full piece! A full piece! And his king is all the way back here. He plays b3, knight c5. You can also win here with bishop a4. And if pawn goes to b4, bishop c2, king f7, g4 is the key idea. g4. The point is that you give a check, you pick up on f5, and then you are winning. But okay, Vidit plays knight c5, fine. Knight takes f6, Vidit has a choice. You got to take one of these pawns. He takes the pawn that's more advanced. Here comes e5. Now Vidit has to play f4. This is a very important move because that splits the pawns. Vidit chooses to do it now. The difference is very small. But Magnus goes d3, takes knight g4, Vidit completely winning. He has to either play bishop d5 or bishop d7. Bishop d7 is the key move. The point of bishop d7 is if the king protects, you push the pawn, and if the king protects, you bring the king, your knight comes over here, you push e7. That is how you do it. I mean, you make sure that the pawn doesn't queen, and then that's it. You are just completely winning. But Vidit goes bishop d5 check. The difference is when you do it this way, because you cannot push. You accidentally walked your bishop into a fork. That's why the bishop had to be on d7 because of knight e3 check. Vidit loses his e-pawn. He's still winning. He's still winning, I think, but it's very tricky. Magnus desperately defending this super passive position. And Vidit accidentally blunders the game into a draw. And in this position, I think he had one final moment. He could have taken king g5, knight d6, king g4, and gotten back in time to protect this and tried to win this endgame. But Vidit, absolutely tragic on move 71, allows the black knight to take the bishop, and that's it. You can guard your pawn, but here comes h5, and I'm going to trade. One of these pawns is going to trade for that g-pawn. Magnus survives after 77 moves. Vidit, if he had won this game and he was winning, he deserved it after all his pressure, unable to convert it in the time trouble of the endgame, and he is out. And the final standings as we approach the playoffs are Lequang Liam winning, Magnus Carlsen in second place, Jordan Van Forest, David Anton, Duda, Ding Liren, Hans Niemann, David Navarra. David Navarra, Richard Rapport, and Pragnananda, a 3-way tie for 8th place, but Navarra apparently winning it on tie breaks. And we have Liam versus Navarra, Magnus versus Hans Niemann, Jordan Van Forest versus Ding Liren, and David Anton versus Jan Krzysztof Duda. We will have the playoffs tomorrow and for all the remaining days. And wow. Incredible. Absolutely crazy, incredible stuff. I absolutely love this football scoring system. Having so much fun watching it. Having so much fun watching Magnus banging on the table. And yeah, great stuff. I will see you all tomorrow. Get out of here.